Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I am Carrick, so we're going to be playing some Victoria 3 here. And this is, I think, unlike the last Victoria 3 series that we have on the channel, it's playing as Chile. That was pretty slow and steady, and that was definitely, I hesitate to call it a tutorial, although I think it was at a pace that would allow people to sort of learn and pick up the game. I think now we're going to play a little bit more just kind of loosey goosey and for fun. We're going to be picking Burma, which I think is a little bit of a. They're not that well off. They're not that well off in terms of GDP, population, geoposition, and also the political situation in Burma is it's not great. It's not great. Plus, I wanted to play the game with some mods and stuff, and I think for a tutorial, having some various UI mods and stuff might be a little confusing for peeps. The mods that we're rocking are just, we got ones that'll help improve the various things here. We have a mod that will let me hide the notifications down here because I don't care at all about those. And then we have just a bunch of UI stuff. Nothing that's gameplay related. Plus, I have a mod that gets rid of the fog of war. You might think, oh, well, that's gameplay. Well, not really. Not when the movement of armies is an abstract concept, right? So it's just more just visual, right? We're just not getting the nasty visual fog. And I've also removed the clouds, so the game the game almost looks nice. And anyways, so it's all just basically little visual things and stuff. But yeah, played as Burma. So 56% of the political power, or whatever divvying up of the pie, or however you want to think of that, is the landowners here. So the first objective is going to be trying to curtail them one way or another. We can look here. We have a royalist as the Theravada monks. That doesn't help us too much. Then we have a bunch of moderates. The first thing we're going to want to pass to get rid of like the landowners, right? So, and again, this is going to be heavily commentated. So if you are learning the game, if you've played a little bit, but you think Burma's hard or something like that, I promise we're going to have a very successful game as Burma. I've been able to over the last month and a half or whatever, put it over 100 hours into this game. I don't feel like I've ever really been challenged in the game that much. I've poked around with the Zulu very successfully. I've poked around with Morocco. I think they kind of have a tough start, to be honest. We started off as Chile. That's actually a very beginner friendly country. I played around as Brunei. Even multiple people told me that Egypt was difficult. I loaded up Egypt and was just sailing. I just started cruising with them. I didn't really find them to be very challenging. I kind of shudder at the thought of actually loading up someone like France or England or Prussia and just having that much sort of that much power in terms of the political setup at the beginning, the technological setup at the beginning, and the economic setup at the beginning. I'm not sure where the game would be. So I like to play weaker countries that exist within their own markets. It might be interesting to play some weaker countries that are in larger markets. If you guys have any ideas as to who that would be interesting. I mean, maybe someone like Cuba would be kind of interesting, right? Because they're in the Spanish market at the start of the game. I think the Columbia District would be cool, but instead of forming Canada, you break away and form Oregon. Oregon. I just mean Oregon. I don't know why I said it that way. So other countries that are in sort of a larger market. I guess you could just play a run where you join a larger market too, right? And see how that goes. Oh, Finland. Finland could be an interesting one, right? Potentially in the larger Russian market and so on and so forth. Or actually, I wonder. Tibet has a GDP of 1 million, 3 million pop within the large Qin Dynasty market. That's not that bad. I mean, they're obviously weaker than us, but they only have the two states, right? And they have the reduced infrastructure and state construction efficiency because of the Himalayas. So I guess actually, you know what? I imagine Tibet would actually be kind of tricky, but I think if you just wanted to sort of, it'd be interesting what the political dynamic is between them and Great Qin. They clearly are, I assume, a subject. Yeah, they're a vassal. So, I mean, I don't know if that's like a threatening thing or if that's something you can just sort of coexist and just grow out of there or not. You're pretty tightly packed in there, to be honest. But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could beat up Nepal, right? And absorb Bhutan and in Nepal. It's not much, but you could get some more population that way, get 1 million more peeps that way. You could come down and beat up Burma. Yeah, I honestly don't even think Tibet would be that bad, because for us, we can't really attack Tibet because they're protected by the Qin dynasty. Coming down here, we'd have to deal with Siam. Interestingly enough, I think Siam is in a better position overall. Actually, I think they're in a significantly better position, especially from the player perspective, because I think the player itself could easily come in here. I think, yeah, these guys are actually a tributary of Siam. I think Siam could actually just go like a wrecking ball and just sort of beat up a lot of these countries and then sort of thrust themselves back at Burma if they wanted to. If the AI had any level of ambition in this game, Dai Nam, very strong country, I think, probably one of potential. Anyways, we're just going off on a tangent now, but yeah, some of these countries I don't think would be too challenging. Some of them would be kind of interesting, for sure. Burma, really our only opportunity for expansion is going to be beating up Siam. We're about equal with them militarily at the moment, to be honest. So it'd be a little bit haphazard to go at them right now, but in the future, I think we could. I think we could see ourselves going southeast here, going north and going west. I think would be a little bit of a hairy situation currently, but anyways. So we're beating up the landowners, right? The landowners, and the main thing that's giving them all this clout. So this, I think this will be a good playthrough for people that are intermediate players that maybe feel like some of these countries are a little bit more challenging when you start so sort of stuck in the feudal, like politically still kind of hanging on to feudalism, I guess, you know what I mean? And not really like, you know, kind of struggling to break out of this and, you know, sort of go for the more liberal, both economic and societal liberal policies that will give us the more powerful economy, but also, you know, move our equality into the future too and stuff. But really, honestly, it took me way too long to realize that you could hover over this clout button and it gives you a breakdown of why they're so powerful. It's like, holy cow, why are the landowners so powerful? There's only 10,000 people in the group. Well, it's because they have the monarchy. They just get benefits from just having all these crummy old feudal laws. 50% from serfdom, 25% from monarchy, hereditary bureaucrats, and peasant levies each. So moving away from the professional army doesn't even upset them that much. That cuts 25% of their political clout, or that modifier at least, which will be like, I don't know, 10% of their political clout, because they have so many modifiers. Getting rid of the serfdom is a big one. It's big one. Rural folks support this. The intelligentsia would support this. Of course, the intelligentsia are completely marginalized. In fact, we probably want to get them into play with some of our authority. We do the one benefit of all this is we start off with quite a bit of authority. I'm tempted to bolster up the rural folk for the start of this, to be honest, as well. Maybe even suppress the clergy. We're not going to be able to suppress the landowners because they're going to be in government in order to maintain legitimacy. So for the peasant levies, both the rural folk and the armed forces want this. So technically, we could just reform the government, add both of them, and try to pass that quick. Only 22% legitimacy hit. That's not bad. And then we'd have about a 20-something% chance to hit this, and we should hit this. Even though the land orders are going to be, they're going to be literally trying to stall out everything we're trying to pass. There's going to be a huge percentage chance that it stalls out because of their just overwhelming power. This will require the intelligentsia to get boosted up a bit before we can go appointed bureaucrats. Obviously, the monarchy is a really tough thing to kind of overthrow. It tends to create revolts. So we might have to actually just stomach a revolt. The nice thing is, if we can actually trigger a contained revolution and beat it down, that can be a strategy for actually pushing through some reforms. One thing I think we're also going to want to go for is actually the ends will justify the means, is the way that I'm describing this. I like to tech into censorship, or to push into censorship, to try to actually pass the other laws more effectively by getting that additional bolster and suppression impact, and then also getting that extra authority to do more bolstering and suppression. So that's one of those things. And it's a little bit of a nice reprieve when you're passing a lot of things that the landowners hate. It's nice to actually turn around and be like, hey, you wanted something that you like? We'll pass something you like. We're not going to do that right off the bat. One, we can't. We don't have the tech for it quite yet. Two, we're going to do that once they start to really hate us, and then we're going to try to do that to appease them, and then it's going to be kind of that bouncing back and forth. So, yeah, professional army. Yeah. That's what I like to start with. 23% chance. There we go. We could just hit it in the first year. I mean, really, why not? Why not? Let's figure out the tech situation in here. We're not the most advanced technological country in the world, but we've got most of our industrial production techs done. I don't even think I'm going to be doing much cotton gins. I tend not to build many cotton plantations because I kind of like the way that the ranching, while it's not as good for actually the output of just pure fabrics, I find that the ranching, the benefit of the fertilizers, once you get to intensive agriculture, the synergy between rice farms and ranching is like a beautiful 1-to-1 ratio. Produce the fertilizers, then use them. It does mean that eventually you're going to start making your own chemical plants and the fertilizer's not going to have anything to do really. So I do understand that eventually you just have too much fertilizer. Hopefully you can send that off to Russia or something like that, potentially at that point. But I still think it's just too efficient to worry about making a bunch of the plantations. I do realize that eventually if you get the pump jacks, you might get a huge boon to fabric production. I mean, like the total cap on fabric production is definitely better with the cotton plantations long term. However, eventually it's not that big of a deal to just import a bunch of the low end goods like wood and fabric. It's not that hard to find a powerful country that's making those low end resources. The issue with the AI is typically that they don't produce like they'll be making enough wood and fabric if we want to sort of just import it and survive off of imports from France or something like that. We'll be okay. It's not something I definitely don't rush into this. I don't tend to build cotton plantations. We could do that in the far future though if we felt like we needed to. So honestly, production tech looks good. I don't tend to do much with the military tech either. I don't think we're going to race to beat up Siam, but until we get our economy stabilized. Yeah, I think just urban planning. In order to get censorship, we need the law enforcement. We don't need to pass police law, but this just unlocks the censorship law in the free speech section. So we do this, then we do this. Colonization is interesting, right? We do start with a single interest group. I don't know how long we're going to hold on to this, but we could technically use this in Oceania to colonize New Zealand or Australia. Ooh, I kind of like that. There's a really sneaky kind of thing you can do right now that I think kind of needs to get somewhat patched out. This little province right here, this is a single province in the North Island of New Zealand. These are two different states. It's splitting it right now because it's even split. I think this is a state and this is a state. And this little bit right here is the only uncolonized chunk. This is a decentralized state right here. And you can colonize this little piece right here instantly, and just it instantly finishes the colony, basically. And you have a permanent interest group in Oceania. That's a little bit of kind of like a cheesy exploity kind of thing. We could, I don't know, maybe we could try to rush for something like that. The armed forces would support this, although actually the rural folk would oppose it. But to be able to get colonial resettlement and then actually just send someone out there, have that permanent interest group, because there's gold down here, right? There's gold in New Zealand. There's gold in Australia. I think. I don't know if that's random or not, but the chance of gold spawning down here is a possibility. Gold tends to be a very powerful resource in this game, in my experience. Otherwise, I think we're definitely going to want to use our interest group. I like using it in Poland. I've actually found that Poland is one of the coolest places to start an interest group. You get access to Austria, Prussia, and the Russian market, which is countries 3, 4, and 5. France and England will probably already have an interest group in our area. England for sure does. And then France probably anyways as well, because they're so powerful that they just have interest groups. They could just blanket the whole map with interest groups. So you end up getting interest groups with the top 5 countries, the top 5 markets, I guess, and you can sort of benefit from that. The other thing is, too, for colonizing, coming down here and getting the gold that's down here in Patagonia is not too bad. Of course, you have to kind of avoid, I would like to be able to do Papua New Guinea and this part of Indonesia here, but the malaria, right? There's malaria here and there's malaria in Africa, but there's no malaria in South America and there's no malaria in Oceania. Is there malaria in, these areas here? No, I don't think so. Is this decentralized? These have to be, right? Yeah, decentralized power. It's hard to tell because they're so small. Yeah, but none of these areas are No discoverable resources, however. No discoverable resources and no malaria. So it's something you could colonize, but it's not like a rush to colonize them, I guess. We're actually going to have rubber in Burma just kind of like on our own, I guess. We actually have 7,000 to start things off, but we have no construction sector currently built. So it's a little deceiving. It's a little deceiving. We're barely probably going to be able to do 2 to start things off, and it's still going to be tight. We have a lot of peasants. I'm going to build 2 of these in Burma, and we're just going to trust that we're going to be able to afford that. But again, it's going to be fairly tight. I don't know. Maybe we go up to 3 if we actually enact some consumption taxes. Maybe we can go to 3. I think liquor is going to end up being a good one. We can wait on this a bit. Instead, we could do decrees, right? We could do encourage agriculture. I think we're going to want Pegu's going to be our main agricultural area. Our main resource industry area is going to be in Cochin, and our main manufacturing area is going to probably be in Burma. But we're going to start off with social mobility to get those qualifications up. Speaking of which, without even looking at the market, I know we're going to need wood. We're going to need wood, because we have a perfect amount of wood production right now. This is coming from subsistence farming. When these construction zones drop, that wood demand is going to go way up. And wood can just be used as primitive furniture. It can be used for heating homes. It's just a crude consumable good for the lower strata. But yeah, I think literally we're going to build, 5 of these maybe. 5 of these in, yeah. And I'm fairly sure we're going to use every single ounce of those, to be honest. We are going to need a port. We are going to need a port in Pegu, because we don't even start with a port, if you can believe that. For the meantime, we could do some trading with the Qin dynasty. We have access to coal, iron, lead, and a good amount of wood. We actually get some benefits, I believe, from hardwood production, correct? 25% building hardwood output, essentially. So we get extra hardwood. That'll be something we'll switch to later. We're not going to be using the hardwood right away. We can either export excess once we get ports set up to England or whatever, or we could just make tons of fine furniture and then export the furniture, I guess. But it's actually a modifier against our state construction efficiency and our infrastructure to have that the forested kind of area, I guess, which seems to be everywhere, including this nice sort of scenic looking Pegu. But Pegu does get the extra because of the delta. They get a little bit of more agricultural output, so that's why I think we wanted to do agriculture here. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Discoverable resources, that's going to be the rubber. Like, in terms of buildings, I don't think we have much to start for a country of 4 million pops. Yeah, we got nothing. We got an urban center. We got 2 government administrative buildings on the lowest setting here. Simple organization. Yeah. Getting some tool workshops to be able to actually upgrade these to the sawmills will be huge. That'll actually be huge. That'll be a huge boon. I think before that, we're going to need some more fabric as well, though, right? We need some more fabric as well. That's also going to use tools. I'm tempted just to throw down the tool factory in Burma. Anticipate the need for tools, because those ranches can use tools, and the logging that we're setting up can use tools. That's going to require more wood. And the one thing that's a little bit tricky here, and it's telling us here in the notifications, we got battalions in reserve, that's fine. Insufficient taxation capacity. So unfortunately, Pegu has a little bit of a problem here with the taxation capacity. Traditionalism is cutting at 25%, so that's basically what's killing us here. Yeah, in order to bump this up, right, we would need government admin buildings in Pegu. But at the current technology that we have, it would literally take. I mean, it would literally. I mean, let's go. I think it would take at least a few of them. Okay, let's. I hate how it always defaults back to that. I don't want to see things that way. I want to see things this way. Yeah, this would give us an extra 10. It says plus 20, but it's actually for some buildings. Anyways, it's showing the total change would be plus 100 plus 10. So from 70 to 100, and then from 10 to 20 here. So 10 additional taxation capacity, but this would be in Burma, obviously, where we're doing okay on that. So each one of these is 10 basically on the higher mode, right? Each one of these is 10 on the higher mode, which takes paper. So really, honestly, I could see 2 of those go down. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive. And then at that point, we'll have 4 government admin buildings that could potentially be using paper. So we set up a paper mill to cover that. Yeah, I could see this. We know we're going to need... Honestly, the wood demands are never going to end. The wood demands are never going to end. Oh, actually, what did we just... How many of these industry things did we queue up in Burma? Tools, paper, and furniture. Because I'm just thinking, yeah, we might split. We might do a little bit of a split. We're going to have a lot of peasants in Pegu too, so we're not going to want to do all... We can't do all of our industry just in Burma. So I might do... And we might do some textile mills in Pegu. And food industries in the Shan states. And then maybe the glassworks will go in the Cochin state to kind of spread out some of the industrial... some of the industrial economies of scale. We've got urban planning going there. We don't need to check out our pops or things like that because none of that stuff matters in this game, actually. You know, the budget, we'll be able to manage this as we get some things rolling. We'll be able to see how things are going there. We got a bunch of stuff queued up because I feel like I'm seeing the Matrix when I play this game. You know what I mean? I know that this is going to be, like, this just makes sense to me. This is going to work. This is going to work. In terms of setting up a temporary trade route, we could temporarily try to set up a trade route for fabric or for wood with the Chin market. If we click on them, how are they doing on fabric and wood? Fabric a little bit above, way above on. Okay, fabric would be definitely. So let's import fabric. It says it's unproductive. I don't believe it. We're going to set that up, and then when that actually starts rolling, that is going to be fairly productive, I suspect. So there we go. I think we're looking good. I think we're looking pretty good for this first episode. Oh, we could spend, let's spend some of our diplomacy points here. And I'll be honest, I'll set up the interest group over here in Poland, but it doesn't really matter that much because I guess it could allow them to trade with, well, I don't know. No, I don't think it works like that. I'm going to set that up anyways, just so we don't forget about it. We can switch that around without penalty. I don't think there's any penalty for moving that around. The other thing would have been to colonize down here, right? So if we end up going the colonization route and trying to sneak a quick one in Oceania, then we could you know, do that little back and forth there. But I think we spend some of our... I always call this... Did I call this infamy? The influence, right? And I think we just butter up some of these folks around us just so they don't think that they're going to come and kill us or something like that. It's not really a big deal. But let's just make England... Let's just make all these guys a little bit happier. I'm not worried about Siam. They can come at us if they want. In fact, actually, interestingly enough, yeah, the relationships with Great Britain is bad. So, I mean, that actually is kind of an important step here, I think. Journal, there's nothing here that's going to be interesting. The game is just, again, it's just so unfinished and there's no flavor at all for... I don't know if there's any flavor for anybody, but there might be a little bit for like Prussia and like England or something, but not for Burma. That's for sure. And honestly, I think we are good to go here and actually start running the game and seeing how this all spreads out. I think we have a strategy. Again, it's going to be professional army. Oh, I didn't even say what our follow-up is going to be. Professional army, because I guess this is almost kind of like episode 1's like opening moves discussion. Peasant army. or sorry, peasant levies is getting switched in professional army. That's 25% curtailed off of landowners. Then we're going to try to wipe out the serfdom. Wipe out the serfdom. Hopefully by then the intelligentsia are able to be moved into government where we could get appointed bureaucrats. And then we can intermittently do colonial affairs, or we could do censorship, or we could do... What would be amazing, if we get rid of the serfdom, we could actually try to make a push for... oh no, the landowners don't like that, do they? Yeah, they don't like any of it. They don't like anything that moves away from traditionalism. Okay, that's fine. That's good to know. That, I mean, really, once we can get to some better economic system here, it really, like, that's when you hit a golden age in this game, essentially. Traditionalism is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But yeah, some reprieves from hammering on the landowners are going to be potentially dedicated police force. I think they mildly like this. And then they'll like the censorship. And... they don't like... I don't know why they wouldn't like colonial resettlement, because it seems like it's just... I guess it's because like it devalues their own land if we're sending people to new lands, I guess, potentially. So maybe that's the thought process there. Obviously, over time, some of our ideologies of our leaders can change too, so that's something to consider. Yeah, so it's going to be professional army, and to ban the serfdom, into appointed bureaucrats. That would be huge. That would be huge. That would literally remove almost 100% of the clout modifiers and basically put these guys down to just like a kind of a slightly above average power level. They'll still be very powerful, but it won't be like that gnarly. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for hanging out here for episode 1. I know keeping this one's a little bit quicker, but the next episode is going to be go, go, go. And I think we've had a lot of discussion on Burma. We have a strategy. This will be our agricultural state, industrial state, logging, resource state. This actually, I think Shan states, this will be a resource state too. It'll just be different kinds of resources because the coal and the lead, come from this state. So eventually, but that's a little bit later into the game that we'll be working on those things. So we have kind of everything sort of plotted out and sort of have opening moves sort of thought through, and everything set up and ready to play the game in the next episode. Guys, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I read every single comment on this YouTube channel, and I respond to every single question. And then also, if you want to find episode 2, the playlist link in the description of the video will help get you to episode 2 safely, because YouTube can be kind of weird about how it recommends videos and stuff. So thanks everybody for being here, guys. I will see you guys in the next episode.